Hi and welcome to Outdoor World Direct. Today we're going to take a look at the Vango Lismore 600xl. Now this tent is available in both Airbeam and in poled design. So you've got the air if you want a quick inflation and a quick pitching, and you've got the fiberglass poles if you want a more value for money tent that isn't going to cost as much and that will reduce the weight down. Now the tent itself is a 3-zone design, so we've got a large porch space here which is enclosable. We've also got a large living space for sewn-in ground sheet, and you've got the bedrooms to the rear of the tent. It sleeps up to 6 people. Personally, I think it's comfortable for about 4 people due to the size of the tent and the living space and the sleeping compartments. 4 people is going to be enough in this space. Lismore 6 is part of the Vango Sentinel Eco collection of tents. The Sentinel Eco collection is designed to be less impactful on the environment when the product is manufactured. So it uses less water and it uses less chemicals when it's manufacturing the product. So that's why it's part of the Sentinel range of eco tents. So the idea is that as they manufacture these, they're not having the impact that they would have on the typical process of manufacturing a tent. It's a 70 denier fabric, so it's a lightweight fabric, and it's got a 3000mm waterproofing hydrostatic head. So it's ideal for spring to summer use in our British climate. Now with this tent, because it is only a 70 denier, what I'd suggest is after 4 to 6 weeks of use, it might want another coat of waterproofing and it might want UV guarding to sustain and lengthen the lifetime of the product. But with it being 70 denier, what's good about it is it keeps the weight of the tent down and it keeps the pack size smaller. So if you're that family that maybe only goes away for a couple of weeks a year and you just want a spacious tent that doesn't weigh a ton and also has a small pack size, this is probably the ideal kind of tent for you. So with this tent, I've mentioned that it's got a 3-zone design. What does that mean? So to this space here, you've got a large open front porch. So you can completely open this to the full extent, or you can completely seal it, or you can have it half open like this. This is an ideal storage area. It's an ideal area for your boots, your shoes, that kind of thing, because you don't want to trample mud or water into this sewn-in living space here. So this is a really useful area and you can make of it what you will. You've got windows to the side and to the front doors, but they don't have privacy curtains on them because it's an auxiliary storage area. So you can't enclose this area off from public view if you like, because there's no curtains here. But it is a really useful area for space and storage, and if you want to prepare food here before you cook it outside, it's a good area for that as well. So stepping inside the tent, what we have is a nice open space here. As I mentioned before, this is really an ideal tent for probably 4 people. It's a 380cm width. So there's 2 types of 6-man tent. You've typically got something around 380cm or you've got something around 450cm in width. So this will offer less living space than perhaps something like the Lismore 7 that's a wider tent. But it's still a nice usable space. You can see we've got 3 chairs in here, one of which is a 2-seater sofa. To the front of the tent, you have mesh windows. So you've got mesh windows here and you've got mesh windows here. These are backed by toggled privacy curtains, so you can enclose them off and cover them. They're really useful for getting some airflow into this space and getting some ventilation into here, but you can cover them off if it's a colder evening and you want to be able to not have the breeze coming through. You also have a door here to the front, which again has a mesh panel on it, which again is backed by a zipped curtain. So also in this area, you've got a fully sewn-in ground sheet. But the sewn-in ground sheet, it does drop down on both the side door and the front door. So this is ideal for trip-free access into the tent. So if you've got prams, you've got wheelchairs, or you've got young children, the drop-down doors are quite handy. The only downside of these drop-down doors is that they don't zip to this door panel or that door panel, so they do leave a small gap. The ground sheet rises up and it toggles to the door, so it will create a seal, but it's not a complete 100% seal. So if you're worried about bugs and stuff like that, that's the only area they could really get in, is either through the gap there or through the gap there. But with them being a drop down door, it is very useful. However, the rest of the ground sheet is completely sewn in all the way throughout, which makes a more comfortable living space. It's going to stop drafts, and it does stop most of the bugs from getting into this space. Another feature we have here is that we also have the tension band system. This is on each beam or pole internally to the tent. So the tension band system, what you would do is you'd have it packed away most of the time. But if you encountered windy conditions, then you would simply take these bands out of the pockets here and you would attach them to the clips here. You can see the one behind me is done. Then you tension them so it's nice and taut. You don't want to over tension them. You just want to provide a little bit of tension to create a triangular shape, which is a stronger shape against side winds. So with this tent, you have side door access and you've got front door access, both of which have got a mesh panel on them. These mesh panels, on this case, it's backed by a zipped curtain here, which is a waterproof curtain as well, so the water can't ingress this area. So if it's a colder night, you might want to close this off. If it's really warm and it's very stuffy in here, you can have this open during the day to provide some airflow, because polyester tents do get quite warm during the day. And if it's a really stuffy evening, it's really handy to have these open so that the air can get in and give you some breathability inside here. Now, with any of the Sentinel Eco tents, what you're going to get is your inner tent will be pre-hung when you pitch the tent. So this inner tent will already be inside this tent. Now, with this one, it's a 2023 model. The only update on this tent going into 2024 is going to be the midnight bedroom. So on the 23 model, you've got a nightfall bedroom, which isn't quite as dark as this one, which is a midnight bedroom. So this is a midnight bedroom. It's designed to eliminate as much of the early morning light as you can. So it's ideal if you've got younger children to be able to get them to sleep a bit earlier without the daylight keeping them awake. Now the bedrooms are a 210 centimetre depth. That means an airbed would probably go in this way lengthways, but if you've got a camp bed or anything like a larger airbed, you're going to have to put them sideways. So with this, you've got two toggled dividers. So we can either have this as 3 lots of 2, or you can have it as a 4 and a 2, or you can have it as just one large open sleeping space. So the configuration is quite malleable to what you want to do with it, really. Most people tend to do a 4 and a 2 configuration, put the kids in one side and then have a camp bed perhaps lying that way and have a bit more comfort and space. The other feature you've got on these bedrooms is they're very breathable, because you've got a large mesh panel along the back. Now the mesh panel, it corresponds to where the mesh panel is on the rear of the tent, and that's really going to help the tent to breathe and create more airflow of the evening. And that's really handy because it's a much more comfortable feeling than being much too warm or waking up with condensation inside the tent.